And we're on.
Yay, we're on.
Back for 2023.
I know, is this our first one for 2023?
This is our first one for this year.
Yeah, because you had your tonsils fucking ripped out.
Yep.
You're sounding pretty good.
And I can talk again now, so...
Yeah, so we're back on the pod.
Back on the horse.
We are joined all the way from Melbourne for the front man of the amazing band Lune. Thank you so much for joining us, man. Fresh off a nice little... Well, finishing your tour after COVID tried to ruin your life a little bit and stop the end of the tour, but you got back, you finished it. We got to see you here in Adelaide on Saturday night, and thanks for jumping on with us now and having a chat.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Now, so as we said, you guys, so how did the first leg of the tour, where did you start? Because Melbourne's your home city, you're from Melbourne. Now, you only got to finish Melbourne on the Friday and then played Adelaide on the Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, 3 or 4 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago or something that the other part of it, how long ago did you start the actual tour?
It was like 3 or 4 weeks. It was like the start of December. So it was the first or second week of December.
Yeah.
And we did Sydney first. Which was interesting at the Chippo, which was nice. Like, it's always interesting playing Sydney because it's always like a bit different every time.
Yeah.
And then we did Newey, which is kind of like a second hometown show for us because our drummer Harrison is actually from Newcastle.
Oh, true.
And he plays in another band called the Pain Body. And Harrison's just a weapon. He's a multi-instrumentalist. He's like better at guitar than everyone in the band. And
oh wow, okay,
yeah, like he's like in with all the big wig guitarists and stuff. Like Wes Hauck follows him, like Jeff Loomis and all these people. It's like nuts. He's actually crazy. But yeah, it was like his other band, the Pain Body's first show, which are more like very techie, like death metal sort of stuff. I would say it's like he used to be in a band called the Blind Oracle, which is how I met Harrison. Because I used to be the photographer and the videographer for that band, and then that band of came to an end, and then I started doing this, and we'll get into that. But Newcastle was really, really sick, and like that was our first time playing in Newcastle ever as Lune anyway, and that was unreal. And we played Brisbane, Brisbane's always like, we have a lot of friends up there and we love being up there. It's like a really good atmosphere, and Brisbane's always really hectic.
Yeah.
There's such like an energy in that city that I don't know if you really get it anywhere else in Australia. I don't know. It's just different. Like maybe it's just because like all the shows that go on are like near Fortitude Valley. And if you don't know about Fortitude Valley, that place is like it's just like a whole massive area. It's just all sorts of stuff, and you see some characters there. You can just walk around there and you'll just be laughing your ass off the entire time because there's always something nuts on. But Brizzy was awesome, other than getting COVID. But Brizzy was great just because we love going up there, and there's like a lot of old friends that are up there from just touring over the years, and we always get a really good response there for whatever reason, and so we just love playing there. And it was an intimate venue, and it was very, very packed out, and it was
killer.
Like a really sick energy. So like even on the back of like us all getting COVID, like I think everyone walked away from that gig being like, that was unreal. Even though like I was having a rough night that night, and I was like, a couple of us were kind of starting to feel a bit funny, and like we'd tested or whatever, and like it hadn't really showed up yet, because I think with rats you got to wait a little bit or whatever. But I was like, I feel a bit funny, but I'll push through, and like it didn't matter. Like the show was still fucking awesome, and this is one of those shows that we'll hold on to for a long time because it was very special, and it was great for Relica as well. That they had like a really like good energy, and they seemed to have a similar sort of buzz in that city as well. Like we were all just really excited to be there. And I think that might have been maybe one of Heartline's first times in Brisbane. I think they've toured a little bit before this, like they've toured with Circles and stuff, but they like had a really good response. Well, anyway, in short, Brisbane rocks. It's awesome. Anyway, then we all got COVID, and that sucked, and had to do the reschedule. But like it was kind of I probably shouldn't be saying this, but it was kind of like a blessing in disguise, because the original Melbourne date, there was 2 clashes on the same night.
Oh wow!
First one being, it was on the other side of the city, but it doesn't matter. Like with Melbourne, like people will travel for shows.
Yeah.
There was North Lane,
Oh, yeah. Wow.
and there was yours truly, which is like
Yeah,
I was cut
okay.
because I really wanted to go and see yours truly. Like I really really love that band, and I've never seen live. And I'm
Wow.
always,
Yeah, okay.
because something always happens. Like I'm like, oh fuck yeah, I want to go like see Michaela sing. And like they're just a really fucking good live band. And a guy that we've worked with a bunch, Joel Adams, who does sound for them, and he travels with them as a touring sound engineer. He just posts videos of them all the time when he's touring with them, and I'm just like, fuck, I gotta go see this band. And every time I miss out. But
So you've never seen them?
Never seen them.
Yeah, they're really good, man. Actually, like I rate them. They played here at the Garvin. It was a good show. They played with Beartooth, I think it was.
Yeah,
Ooh.
I
think.
remember that.
Interesting lineup. I like a good mix bill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So you obviously that was Sydney, that was Brisbane. So you guys didn't play Perth?
no. So that's one of the things where for all the people that, I don't know if anyone from Perth watches this, but sorry to all those people, because we really want to get over there.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things where, like, I think at the moment, this is touring is very different nowadays, and there's definitely a lot more costs
Of course.
attached to touring. I promise to those people we will go to Perth eventually. I promise. It's just we're not quite there yet. We will, I promise.
Yeah, well,
And
surprisingly
we'll make it
enough, we
worth your
actually
while.
have a fair few people from Perth tuning in because we've interviewed a lot of Perth bands.
Yeah, well, I was mentioning to you at the merch desk how I'm going to come check out the show with Indestruction, because Sedative, who are homies from Perth, they're obviously on that bill, and we promised them as soon as they were back in Adelaide we'd come and say hey. So we'll definitely be hitting that show up and getting along to that. We can't wait.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And we've got a lot of friends in Perth, so it's kind of like I'm kind of bummed that we haven't been yet, because like my brother and David, David's the bass player, my brother is the guitarist, Chris.
Yeah.
They were in a band called iValiance, and they toured a lot.
Yes.
And they went on a bunch of tours with a band called Iconoclast, which were from Perth.
Yep.
And like, so we're like really tight with those people, and like we all like love Cody, who is the guitarist in that band, and he's like, side of the family, and he's a producer over there, and yeah, he's a bit of a weapon, that guy. So I'd love to get over there and go hang out with all those people, because
Pretty cool.
And
Ryan's old housemate.
We have a lot of Perth fans.
Yeah, Ryan's old housemate is a sound guy that does a lot of stuff here in Adelaide, and he was one of the biggest iValiance fans of all time. So I went to see them a few times. I reckon that they might have been on the show that Black Tongue pulled out of here in Adelaide.
Yeah.
I reckon it was like them, Make Them Suffer, Black Tongue, and maybe one other band. It was just a fucking mental lineup, but Black Tongue pulled out of the Adelaide show at the last minute. So like Make Them Suffer and iValiance got to play longer sets. Maybe it was Boris the Blade. So it was like a fucking tough lineup.
Yeah, big lineup.
Yeah, I remember that. That was in 2015. That was the Old Souls tour for Make Them Suffer.
Yeah. So that lineup was just mental, and even with I was keen to see Black Tongue because I thought someone's going to die in this pit, but it was still a mental show. They all just got to play longer sets, and everyone had a great time. So they were a great band, and that. So you've got two members in Lune now.
Two members of Ival are in Lune, yes, because Ival was kind of like, I guess this is probably the origin story of the band. Ival was kind of like dying, and then it was like ramping down, I would say. Not I think people had different priorities, and Chris and David were still really hungry to push, and Chris kind of was going a different direction. So Chris actually filled in for Make Them Suffer in Europe, and
wow.
and he did a headline run with them in in 2016 and 2017 in that period. And then Chris came back real hungry and just like, we need to like grind hard and go real hard. As far as I understand, maybe not everyone was on the same page in that sort of way. And so Chris started writing music just on his own. And this band exists because Ival was kind of coming to an end, and Chris had been touring, filled in for MTS, and kind of came back really hungry for, to like push the band harder than ever. And I think, I don't know, as far as I understand, I don't know the full story, but, I think people were in different places. And so that band is kind of like, I wouldn't call over, but on a hiatus, I would say. But who knows? Like, who's to say? And then Chris was started writing music of his own, just on his own. And I was just that guy, I was just his little bro in the other room hearing music and kind of like singing something to myself over it, but like not having the courage to kind of like walk into the room and be like, I think I have an idea for that. And then like it took a couple of years, and I think he tried a couple of people, and then one day he just asked me, he just sent me a track, which was the early version of Manipulator, which I think had like a pre-production name of something to do with about salamanders or something like that.
Okay, right.
The pre-production names, they're always like really silly names. To do with like the early days was always to do with salamanders or lizards or something. And it was to do with food. I think Exit was called the Calzone before it was like an actual song. Yeah. But yeah, that's how the band started, I guess. And and then David was still really hungry. David was really hungry to keep going. So it was just like a no-brainer for Chris to get David back on, because they've worked together for like over 10 years.
Yeah, wow. So what about yourself then? Let's talk us through your own musical journey. Is this your first ever band? How did you get into doing the vocals? You play any instruments? Talk us through, I guess, your own history with music and bands, if there's any.
Okay. When I was a teenager, like when I was a kid, like I play guitar and I play bass. I can do all that sort of stuff. I write my own music, but it's just for me. It's like I don't really instrumentally. I think what I write instrumentally is very different to how Chris and David write and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would like to put more of my stuff in there, but I would say it's probably more of the chorusy melodic stuff. I kind of always like wanted to sing, but like didn't think I was very good. But I was always just like the kid in my bedroom, just trying to figure out how to scream. So I just did like weird little voices and impressions of things. And I was like, what if I do an impression of like this stuff? And try and do it.
Well, I tell you what, man,
like,
you're
okay at that. And then I tried to do it.
You figured it out. Because I was actually saying to Justin after the show on the way home how impressed I was with your range. And how you can go from this almost like old Sam Carter sounding high scream that kind of reminds me of that early Architect sound, from that to like this brutal low, and then that real like piggy sound. Man, I was just blown away, honestly. It was really good, bro. It was really good.
Yeah. Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. And then what else? I was in a bunch of bands that were terrible. My brother and I were in like some like melodic death metal band together, like when we were teenagers or whatever. And then that was like the extent of what we'd done band-wise together. And then he went and joined Ival, and Ival was Ival. And then I don't know. I think he and I went like two different directions musically, but then it kind of like came back to the same place. I was in a band with a really questionable name.
What was that?
Called Architects of Evolution. It's called Architects of Evolution, and it was like a deathcore band. And it was like, but it was like all like metal dudes, and it was kind of. I met them through a couple of friends, and one of them is now Luke Graham, who plays guitar in Autopsy. He was the guitarist in that band. And there's Sam Wright, who's now, he plays guitar in a band called Wallet Inspector, which is like an instrumental, crazy instrumental band.
Okay.
Like if you're into like prog stuff or just like really techie playing,
we're
really into that. And Matt Willem, Matt Poey, who used to be in Autopsy as well, plays guitar in that band. So it was kind of like this weird side project thing, but yeah, that band existed, and we did like a 15-track concept album or something.
Yeah,
and we did that, released that in like 2015, and then just dipped, and that was it. And then I didn't do anything for ages musically. I tried to work with a couple of people, and I was like I work in the photographic industry. Okay, that's what I do every day. So I was like studying that at uni and like being trained to do that. And so that just kind of became my priority, and I was kind of like done with music for a while, but it had always been like this itch in the back of my mind because I was like working with bands still, and I was always around it, and I was like touring with bands still and doing like photo and video work for them. So I was kind of always like, oh fuck, I kind of miss this. And then I started like writing my own shit again, and my brother sort of started noticing that maybe like I wasn't, like just his little brother that used to be in a terrible Melodeath band with them. And then we decided to do stuff together. And that's that. And I bet I completely changed how I sing and scream for the most part for this band.
Okay, interesting.
My brother sent me the song and then was like, I want like yells, which I kind of done, but I was writing this like at the time for myself, this really, really emo stuff, like with like really like yelly, whiny vocals almost. That's kind of like probably closer to, if you know a band called Touche Amore or that band, or like La Dispute or something like that.
Okay.
So I'm really into that sort of stuff. I really like melodic hardcore and emo and like all sorts of stuff. That's definitely my bag. Like it's just very raw and honest kind of subject matter and lyrics, and I think that is what a lot of what I brought into Lune, which was just spilling my fucking guts on tracks. Which is, I don't know, I feel like I wouldn't do it any other way, because I feel like when I was younger, when I was like 18 years old, I was like writing this concept album about aliens and this sort of stuff, and it was cool, but it was kind of like I don't really like
resonate with this.
I'm not really connecting with it as much. I couldn't write about anything like that anymore. Like I have to write about something real, and I think like the heaviest things, and I think the most important things to write about are the things that happen in real life and are like very real things, or
for sure
things you've experienced. And I think like a lot of artists, they use like their music or something as a way to like have a cathartic release, or like a positive outlet for something that's happened or something they've experienced, in some way to tell that story and get out of their system in a healthy way. So that was kind of like I make this joke all the time that we're like trauma dumping the band, because we just like, I don't know, we experience things and we talk about them and then we write about them.
100%, man.
I couldn't go back to like writing about aliens or anything.
Of course.
Real, because it wouldn't feel right to me.
Well, some things
kind of sidetracked.
No, you're all right. No, so because I mean, I think that shines through as well. Like the way you even started your set, you came out with so much energy. You were like, getting in the crowd's face and being like, "Let's fucking go!" Like there was so like you can tell it again, like that. The passion in the music, and that then shines through even more on the back of that energy that you bring. And it's super obvious how talented the entire band is. You mentioned the drums before, and that was a big standout for me. Even the whole night, I was like, I felt like drums was a fucking winner for me out of that night.
Yeah,
like
every band had a good
Every
drummer,
band had just an insane drummer, and it was just really cool. The sound in Enigma is always quite good as well. Like, the snares were just sounding fucking crisp, as I kept saying.
400 meters away.
The snare bombs sounded like they're coming back from Melbourne. But yeah, you can definitely tell that you guys are just super talented, have a history of I guess passion for music, and it really shines through. So full credit to you guys as well in that. Like it was such a good show, and I've actually been on you guys for quite some time, and it was exciting to finally get to see you guys live, and for me as well. Like I actually had not heard of Relica. As soon as I saw the announcement and that you guys were coming to Adelaide, I was like, I'm going to finally go and see Lune. And I was like, I hadn't heard of Relica other than someone else that we'd had on the podcast mentioning them. And I was like, I've got to check these guys out if they're the sort of headliners with Lune. And my fucking God, I fell in love, man. They are amazing. One of the coolest things I've heard in such a long time.
That band rips. Yeah, they're sick. And like, it was kind of cool because they've kind of got their own thing going on, which I think is really cool. Like they're like the whole time, like we were just razzing them and making like prog metal jokes like the entire time we were with them. But like they're not a prog band really. Like there's definitely like bits where it's like, this is like very prog. But they're also like sitting on the fence between that like prog metal crowd and also like metalcore, which is quite cool. So they've got this almost like really like open canvas to really do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
Which I think is quite cool, because so each song can really be whatever it needs to be, and it doesn't really feel like it's out of place.
Yeah.
Which is kind of nice about that band. And like Mon's such a force vocally as well. Like yeah, I was just like really impressed watching her sing every night. I was just like, fucking hell, you got some lungs on you, mate.
Yeah.
That whole band can play their asses off, which is really cool, and it's nice. And they're also just like very, very professional and nice to deal with. So yeah, it's refreshing to
I found it so interesting that like it's a band where, you know, like, I don't know, sometimes you'll hear a band that doesn't have a screamer and you'll feel like it's missing something. When they're playing that kind of sound, you'll sometimes like be like, you know, you feel like with just a clean vocalist, like that there's that edge or that sort of passion missing. And I don't feel that for 1 second with them at all. Like,
not at all.
The sound that they create is just as like heavy and impactful without needing the unclean vocals, which is a really, you know, positive feedback for them to be able to do that, and you don't even feel yourself like noticing anything, you know, missing in that kind of passion side. And they're just really cool. So it was amazing to get to see them live and meet a couple of them after the show as well. And again, we've got to give props to Heartline, obviously. Shout out the Adelaide homies. That
band fucking rules, and they're just the best people as well. Like we got along with them like immediately. We want to tour with them again real bad, because they're just not only are they just like a criminally underrated band, they're just like amazing musicians and also just lovely people.
We chatted to the screamer and lead singer after the show as well. We're going to get them on for a podcast, because again, we were like, you know, I'd been listening to them for a while, but again, it was my first time getting to see them, because I'd missed them a couple of times due to other reasons, and I was so excited. And like I said, it was just like it was insane to think that I paid $20 for that show. I would have happily paid $60. That's how just I went home on a cloud of metal love. I was very happy. You were the same, I think, as well.
It was a great show, man. It was fucking fantastic.
And for the fact that you guys get to be on tour again soon, that must be pretty exciting. Obviously, you know, almost fairly back to back, really.
Yeah, we've been fucking stinging to tour, just because we took 6 months off last year. And it was like this real weird thing of like, are we going to come back and are people going to care? Because we took so long with it. But I'm glad we did, because now we're like, not only are we getting back onto touring and feeling really excited and like ready to do it and like get in the fucking van and grind, we like just sitting on this music that we just want people to hear. And we're still in that weird period of like, we're starting to play the music live and people can hear it and like get a taste of what's coming. But we're also just like, fuck, we want people to hear it so bad.
That was actually going to be my next question to you, because you played a new song on the weekend, and it actually sounded a little bit more melodic than your other ones. And I was actually like, okay, this is going to be interesting, what kind of direction you guys are going to go. So what's the scoop when it comes to this new Lune music? And are you writing something like more of a full length, or are you going to drop some singles, or?
We're sitting on a whole bunch of new music. I will not disclose too much, but yeah, I would say it's not particularly one sound.
Yep.
I would say. I will say that it, like we keep saying, it just like wipes the floor with anything we've done before. Just in every single way, like everyone pulled their weight in such a huge way, and like really stepped it up. We've got a new guitar player as well, like Mason, who played in a band called Advocates, and they grinded for years, but he's really cutting his teeth as a producer now as well. And he's actually been working with a whole bunch of bands. Like he's working with Spectre, who is a band we're touring with Within Destruction. So he's been working with them, and Chris had these songs, and like when we were kind of looking for somebody, like having someone that gels with my brother and the way he writes was really important to us. And their chemistry was just pretty undeniable. And then the way that they communicate and work with one another musically, it just really made sense. But in that sort of way, when I mean people pulling their weight, those two are just a total force. And David is like really like, he's such like a drive and such a force, and he's like constantly sort of pushing forward as well. And he's quite hungry. So it's nice to have everyone in the band be on the same page in that sort of way and really pushing forward, and really we're all going towards the same goal, which is really nice. And Harrison, who's just, I don't know what to say about that guy. Every time I talk about him, it's just, I just can't believe he's in our band. He just, because I toured with him with Blind Oracle, and at the time when he was touring with that band, he was 16 years old, and he was like playing 300 BPM blast beats and stuff. He's just like he's just an animal. It's ridiculous. And yeah, so we're like we're just kind of like, come down and play with us and see what happens when we were starting the band looking for a drummer. And yeah, I'm so glad he's just in our band. And having like the first release we did, he tracked drums, but it was on an E-kit, so it wasn't the same. But for this record, we tracked live drums, and he smashed everything in a day and a half.
Wow. How many songs did he get out?
I mean, once again, I will not disclose how many songs, but
a couple.
Many songs in a day and a half. And yeah, I just remember we were tracking drums with Lance, and he did like a track in one take, and just like just mauled it, like just did such a good job. And when he's in the mic and he's going, "Oh, was that shit?" And Lance kind of turns around and goes, "I don't know. I heard some audible gasps in the room behind me. Like, I think you're good." He's just a weapon. So I definitely felt like I was like, oh fuck, like every day, like I wake up and I'm in this band and I'm like, why am I in this band? I don't belong here. These people are ridiculous. So I just try and step it up as much as possible where I can. And
well, hey, I don't think the vocals are a weak point, man. I don't think the vocals are a weak point. So you got to give yourself a little bit of credit there.
Yeah, dude.
So you were just saying that you've obviously been jumping into the studio with Lance Prank then.
Yeah.
Have you always gone through him, or?
Well, other than Lance recording the drums, this entire thing was self-produced. So we tracked it ourselves. Yeah.
Okay.
So we spent a bit of time when we first started. We'd been working on the songs for a year before that already, and like demoing out the songs and stuff. And then we spent 6 months like working some of the songs and getting to a better place. Like I scrapped like vocals on a bunch of songs and just like redid it completely. Because I had like initial ideas and demos and I thought they were cool, and then I just completely reworked them and sat behind Chris and Mason as they started working together, reworking the songs, and just went, okay, like this music is really at another level. I need to like step it up and like scrap a whole bunch of this and redo it. But yeah, we this entire house, like we tracked all the vocals. This is my bedroom, and we tracked the vocals in here, and also like my PC is just here, which David was sitting here using this as like a control room. And then we have we built a vocal booth out there's a garage, like just outside our house. And we built a vocal booth and ran leads into that. So that was like my vocal booth, and David was using this as a control room. The living room was where they tracked all the guitars and all the bass.
Shit.
So there's like each room in that place where we live and write all the music was like just a whole house of us just making it all together.
That's rad.
Which was like a really scary but also exciting thing. And then, like that was the first week of it, and we smashed as much as we possibly could. And then we had a headline show at the end of the week. I feel like we definitely kind of bit off more than we could chew, but we just kept going and kept working on it. And we went to, I think, a week before or 2 weeks before we started recording, we'd played a festival in Darwin with called Terror Loud with Alpha Wolf and Diamond Construct and a few other bands.
Cool.
And we all got COVID then.
So you got COVID twice?
Yeah, in December, that was my second time having it.
Fucking hell.
The second time was nowhere near as bad. Like I was pretty okay.
Yeah.
I spent the whole time just worrying about Monique because she's immunocompromised, just freaking out, being like, oh my God, is she going to die?
Yeah.
But she was okay. And like, thank God. I'm very glad that everyone is okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I had to spend a bit more time on the vocals finishing it just because I was still kind of recovering, which was interesting. But I feel like even though like it prolonged the recording process, it kind of made me a better singer for it, because I just had to, like, in some ways I had to go to a vocal coach and like relearn how to do some techniques.
Interesting.
To get my voice back up to scratch. And now, we're all good now.
So who'd you go to for your vocal lessons?
So went around and got a bunch of recommendations from a bunch of people that ended up going to a place called Vox Singing Academy.
Okay.
And I see a lady named Emily. She's a crazy Russian lady that yells at me to sing properly. Yeah. And she's awesome. So she's the best. She's Emily at Vox Singing Academy. A little plug there for you.
Yeah, shout out. Yeah,
people at Vox Vocal Academy, like they've taught, like Josh from Banks Arcade, David from Belhaven, like heaps of people, like Jacob from Thornhill, all sorts of people. Yeah, and Jacob from Thornhill recommended them to me. Okay. I was looking for someone, and I just like randomly DM'd him and was like, hey, like I'm looking for a new teacher. Do you have any recommendations? And he was like singing high praise of them. So
cool.
Yeah, and they've been awesome.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, I want to just jump back because some of the things that we were talking about before that I think stands out to me is like for you guys, the closeness that you have as a band and like, the complete removal of ego for yourself and you talking about like, I'm just in awe of the fact that I get to be in this band, like, the excitement of doing it all in the house together. Like I think we can very comfortably say like the bands that we talk to and the ones that are clearly the ones on the way up, that is a very common theme. Do you know what I mean? Where everyone is like super like passionate about the bonds and the friendships that they have with the band members and like really caring about the process altogether. And, I guess it's such a thing where like bands for so long were quite often, you had the egotistical member here and the people that don't agree there. And like the bands that are really being successful these days are the ones that have like, you mentioned that Chris, we wanted to have someone that came in that really like aligned with Chris's like process and direction, like thinking about those things like cognizantly and being like, this is the way that we be successful, making sure that we do these things. It's so important and probably underrated in terms of like, acknowledging that as a massive important part of the band. What else can you tell us about that, about how for you guys that's been a pillar of your success so far?
Yeah, the synergy of a band really has to work, otherwise you're going to be releasing music and then you're going to reach that point in however many years after, and if you're having infighting or disagreements, then the music's going to start suffering.
Yeah. Oh yeah, big time. Like to start off with the ego thing, like I think nowadays, and I think it's pretty clear to most people anyway, but having an ego, that shit just doesn't fly, and it should have never flown the way it did. And for any band at any level ever, but I think you need to make sure that you have a good working relationship with the people you're working with before you can even talk about being a successful band, because you're not going to have anything if you're not like good and having a good working relationship with one another and you don't get along and you don't enjoy creating with those people. And I think in a lot of ways, like, like I'm in a band with my brother. So like you need to have a certain level of, you need to compartmentalize, like, here's my brother and here's my bandmate, the person I work with, and realize when we're pulling each other up on things and holding each other accountable for, a job that needs to be done or something like that, that is not a personal thing. We're both ultimately want the same thing. We're trying to reach the same goal. Yeah. Whether that be, like funding something or, going on tour or releasing music or working on music. It's like, choosing we want to get this done. If we want to get this done, we have to work together. Like it's the only way. And you have to leave your ego at the door most of the time. And also, like, you got to keep each other in check, and like that's fine. And like my brother and I don't want to be the Gallagher brothers. Like we don't want to end up hating each other. So we got to, make sure that there's a good working relationship in place there. And I think especially when it came to having new members, we want to make sure that we have a good working relationship with them and that we all get along with each other and enjoy each other's company. Like Davo and Chris, like that has always been a no-brainer because they've worked together for 10 years. And what can I say about David? He's just like the best person in the world. Because like, I don't know, I've never met anyone like him. He's so weird, but I love it. And that's
the basis, isn't it?
Yeah, he's the bassist.
Yeah.
And he was originally the guitarist as well. But we had a
okay.
bass player, Tyler, who left the band, who's like my brother's childhood best friend.
Okay.
Wow.
And he's a dad and he's got a family. And
Yeah.
I think just like, priorities change and things change and he wanted to move on. So, but David always kind of wanted to play bass. So he was just like, immediately like, yeah, I'll play bass. And we we're like, really? You sure? And he was like, yeah, no, I'll play bass. And he got excited and like, bought all this new gear and was just excited and happy, and we're like, oh, like you're actually serious, like it was like a no-brainer for you. You were just like, no, I wanted to do this. Okay,
He was like, I want the long boy.
he did real bad, and like he has moments where he'll be like in the rehearsal room playing and he's like, I feel like I was just meant to play bass.
Yeah, no shit.
He loves it. So
yeah, he was super cool, man. I had a chat to him over the merch desk about your vinyl, actually.
yeah,
Because I don't see many bands, especially heavy bands, that are producing vinyl and then bringing that along for sale and stuff like that. So, yeah, I was kind of having a chat to him and he seemed super genuine, man. So
he just is a music lover and he loves music for it being music. I think before anything, it's like for him, it's so not about like being successful or being the biggest band. It is about making music that rings true to him and like playing and touring. And the way we've seen it, we're all in too deep now to turn back. Like we all, we all want this, and it's like you're either gonna go and fucking do it or you don't. And we want it, so we're gonna do it, and that's all there is to it. But David just like has the weirdest music taste, and I love it. Like he'll listens to so much different shit. Like I'll get every time I get into the car with him when we go somewhere, he's like, listen to this, and I'll be like Frank Zappa, and the next thing will be like Freddie Gibbs or Joey Badass or something like that.
Oh wow!
And then he'll put on like some like grindcore band or so it's always like something different all the time.
Yeah.
And so like my relationship with Dave has always been like us recording music together and us showing each other really weird music.
Killer.
Because I feel like he's always has such an open mind about different kinds of music. There's nothing that you can show him that he won't like actually sit and give the time of day.
Perfect, man. Yeah.
He'll listen to all of it and he tries to get an understanding, like a good understanding of it. So like even as a heavy band, like I've been like, I kind of want to do this thing on this or like this from this thing. And then it's like not even related to heavy music at all. Yeah. But some people will be like, oh no, but that's like not heavy or like whatever. That's not like a thing that heavy bands do. Like he doesn't care. He's just like, no, like let's try it.
It's funny. Sorry. It's funny you say that because that is another thing that we've noticed as an emerging theme from having chats to bands about how often they're like, I've got this really gigantically broad music taste. And then I try and bring little bits and pieces of these things that aren't metal at all, but like, add that into a bit of my vocal style or a bit of like, the kind of musical sound will be like a bridge in a song because I like that particular, style. And I think it like that whole thought behind like, oh, you can't, listen to anything else or, gatekeepery. Like it's the same when it comes to the production side of it as well. You shouldn't gatekeep yourself into, only sticking within the lanes of the genre that you kind of sound like, or even the complete, sound that you have it all together. I think it's so important to appreciate all kinds and draw inspiration from everything because, there's definitely so many untapped genres that can be pulled
Well, that's
from.
exactly right. And like you're finding these days more and more in heavy music, you're finding these other influences. Like for example, with the new Sleep Token song, I think it's like the Summoning or something like that. That little section at the end where he's like
throwing a little stank on it,
Yeah. And I was just like, what the fuck is happening here? I'm all for this.
Yeah,
like,
this is so groovy.
Yeah. And people are finding ways to incorporate these different styles and different techniques and stuff like that. And they're breaking away from this kind of like template that's been set on heavy music that I feel like was such a common thing from 2005 to 2015, like that kind of...
Yeah, big time. Yeah, they are like a band that I have a lot of time for, and like knowing who some of the members are has definitely brought a lot of context to the band. Like especially with them, like especially I remember hearing like what was the first Sleep Token track I ever heard? Might have been like 2018 or 2019. I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
It was like right before the Sundowning like album rollout.
Yeah.
I was like, this sounds like like metalcore, but like also like meets Bon Iver in like the vocal in how some of the vocal delivery is and how some of the vocal layering is. Like on the first album, there's a song called like The Night Does Not Belong to God, which is like the first one, and there's a middle section in that song where there's a break, and it's just they're using like a vocoder, or not a vocoder necessarily, but this like an effect that was made by Justin Vernon, who's the main songwriter of Bon Iver, and Kanye West, I think on Yeezus. Or My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. I forgot what album, but it's called The Crystallizer.
Yeah,
and it's like
I know
this weird vocal effect chain they made, and like they're using that and like all sorts of weird stuff. And I was like, yeah, this, you don't hear this on anything even remotely metalcore. And then after that point, everyone's using it everywhere. But it's really like there's always like a band that is almost like there's like this landmark or this point where something shifts. There's always a band that shifts the way that people see or make or think about music. And I think they're definitely one of those bands. Like, and we got a double whammy. We got two of them at once. You know, we got Loathe and we got Sleep Token at the same time. You know, pretty much within a 12-month period, we had Sundown and come out, and then we also got I Let It In and It Took Everything, which is just like a massive like shift for like modern heavy music moving forward. But with that sort of stuff,
especially with the down tuning, tuning is so low in a lot of their stuff, but still having that crunch to it in a weird way.
Because they're using baritone guitars, which are basically like basses, but like a super extended scale guitar, but it's almost like a bass, but it's like perfect for that sort of sound because it's like so dirty sounding. Like it's not perfect and it's not clean, and the aggression of that band and like the amount of stuff that they do in that sort of range, like it makes sense for that band so much. And it's kind of nice to hear some heavy music that's production wise is quite polished, but like in terms of how it's presented production wise or production choices that are made, that you know, not everything has to be like super polished, because I think some of that rawness really comes through on the song, and it is really what is right for the song. Because if something's too sterile, it can really take away from like the human element of a song, or like the emotive part of it. Like
Definitely,
you lose the emotion out of it because it's like too mechanical and it's too perfect.
It's a really exciting time for music at the moment. We say that a lot, but like there's just so many, like in Australia as well, particularly like this, like we mention this all the time, but like coming out of COVID, that what you mentioned before about Chris and that being like, you know, still having that hunger and really wanting to drive it. I feel like that has been such a defining characteristic coming out of COVID, where people are like, we had this taken away from us. It's do or die now. Let's fucking make this happen. Let's stop sitting on these tracks and not going and finishing them. Let's stop umming and ahhing about whether we're going to tour. Let's fucking do it, because, you know, who knows what's going to happen in another fucking 2 years, 1 year, whatever it may be. Let's do it right now. And then, you know, you've got venues are saying, let's fucking do it now. We didn't have live music for, you know, a year plus. You've got bands going, let's fucking do it. We've not had this for that long. And then you've got the punters like, fucking get me back to live music. So the culmination of all of those things has been so good for shows. And it's just amazing to just be stringing like so many shows together and getting back out there. It's just like, I just love it. I just always leave, you know, riding on a high. And again, having it taken away from me for so long really made me truly appreciate how much I have like not just a passion, but a need for live music. I didn't realize it was like a soul food thing where I was like, when I couldn't do it anymore, it actually was depressing. And I think a lot of people feel the same way. And yeah, the kind of the rush of music and talent and emerging incredibleness that's just coming out of it now. It's such a super exciting time to be a fan of metal.
It's interesting because like how you're saying, you were like, all right, when COVID hit and I couldn't go see them, you were like, fuck, like I really miss this, right? And for me, it was like, all right, COVID hit and then didn't get to see shows, and I was like, oh, okay, like this isn't too bad, I guess. Like, you know, I'm dealing with it, right? And then the shows came back, And that's when I got hit. I was like, wow, okay, I just spent the last 2 years not seeing this. Like, what the fuck? Like, isn't it weird how that kind of like everyone's dealing with it differently on that time, their own timeline?
Yeah, you're kind of in like personal denial about it.
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah, whatever
I'm
is
cool
a show.
with it. Yeah.
And then you go and see one again and you're like, I missed you so much.
I was like, fuck. Like, one of the last shows that I saw was Wage War, Crystal Lake, and Polaris.
Yeah.
Oh, far out. Yeah, okay.
And that was I didn't go to it because I was doing comedy here in Adelaide, and like I was doing a hectic Fringe schedule because it was right in the middle of Fringe. And so I sent my missus, I was like, look, you go, this is my only night off. I was doing like a 12 show run, and I was like, I'm going to miss it. And we go into lockdown like, you know, a short time after. So like, you know, I was like, and they came home and they were like, it was the best show. They were amazing. And I was already feeling sad about missing it. And then little did I know that was going to be the last possible show I could have seen for, you know, a year and a half. So
yeah. So Nathaniel, how did you deal with not seeing live music over COVID?
Okay. Before I answer that, first of all, that was really beautifully put. Like, that was very passionate. So I'm like, I appreciate that.
Thank you, man. We just love music. That's why we're doing these things, man.
Exactly.
Like we are, you know, we just absolutely love the scene, the music, and it means a lot to us. Otherwise, I think we try to make that shine through on the podcast as well. You know, there's no point us being here having these interviews and being not passionate about it. Otherwise, it's going to seem pretty disingenuous. So we just love music.
Exactly, and it shows, like, you know, that you care and you're passionate about it, and that's why we're all here. But you know, like on that, you know, like obviously COVID, like for a lot of people, like a lot of bands and artists, like that was really the point where it's kind of like, do I want this, or is this kind of like a thing that I'm sitting on the fence about? So we saw a lot of, you know, like artists and bands like dissolve, but that's like, you know, they've gone into different stages of their life, and maybe, you know, that they realized that they didn't want a career out of it, or they, you know, that you know, like some people are just like, you know, aren't like fully in it, and that's okay. And like, you know, that's what they need to do, and that's okay. But for a lot of the bands that are here now, they're like, no, we're here. Like, we want this. Yeah. And like for some of us, like for me, like it feels like so dramatic, but I feel like I like can't breathe if I like can't make music and do it. Like it's so weird. Like I feel like I couldn't go back to like just doing what I was doing for 4 or 5 years before Lune, because there was like 4 or 5 years where I just felt like so like not myself fully, and I was like, something's missing, something's not right. And then we started the band, and then pretty much launched the band, like similar sort of deal. Like we launched the band November 2019, released the first track.
Wow.
December released Manipulator, second track. Do our first show, headline, like craziest show I've ever played in my entire life, and it's the band's first show. I think we played one more show, lockdown, that's it.
Yeah, see, that's nuts, man.
And it was like this weird thing, but like it was like super like bittersweet, because you still like released the whole, like we released Ghost in that time. And it was like, because it was nice because people are sitting at home and they like spent the time to like listen to this music, because people start to realize like, oh, like this is really important to me, and like this is, or you know, people are connecting to the things that people have made and created, because they're, now you can't go and talk to someone face to face. You're looking for connection in other places, and you're going back to the ways that you can feel a real human connection or experience with another person. And like, you know, it's, you know, for a lot of people take their own meanings out of music that's made, and they take something away from it, or it has a different meaning for them. Like, I get that a lot with like Manipulator. Like people come up to me and they're like, tell me like a story, or like how it's like how that they've used the energy from that song to kind of like push through something of theirs, or they've like shared something with me, because like I said, the band is trauma dumping the band. And so like but you know, I don't know, it's like not really trauma dumping, it's just like a positive release of negative energy.
Of course.
And I'll just say this now, if you know, do have, you know, issues, please go and seek help and get therapy. Like I've been going to therapy for 8 years, and it has been the best thing I've ever done in my entire life. So please do that. But anyway, we'll leave it at that.
No, that's good, man, because we actually do have a very strong focus on mental health. We actually have episodes where we only talk about mental health. So it's really good. And if you do want to delve deeper into it, be my guest, because we think that music is basically auditory therapy in a certain way. And I know that's for me, that's a part of the reason why I love music so much. So
yeah, absolutely. And I'm actually I'm actually about to spend the next 2 days doing suicide intervention training here in Adelaide through one of the charities that we've had on the podcast before. So I'm very excited to take part of that and kind of turn my passion for it into something tangible and something that I can help with. So yeah, do not hesitate to go a little bit further on that. I think, again, talking about the COVID stuff, it was a really tough time because, again, it wasn't just how much we love music, but not having access to something where, whether it's cathartic for you as a band or anyone in a band, but for us being able to get out and have that social interaction and losing all of that, we talked about it a lot through the pandemic about how much it was going to impact people's mental health. And I think, again, coming out of it, realizing how much, I think, you mentioning about needing to go and seeing a therapist for so long, and I think it's just so important that we just have that conversation as casually as what you just did, and bring it up as casually as you did, because it's so important. And we're seeing a lot of musicians, like you said, kind of coming away from writing music about aliens and stuff like that, and having more of that, like, I'm going to talk about, what is really passionate to me. And a lot of that ties into mental health. That's what a lot of people are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, if you are listening to this and there's anything outstanding and you need to talk, whether it is a therapist or just someone in general, absolutely make sure that you reach out and talk to someone. And hopefully, if you haven't already got a great relationship with music and that helps you in some way, then definitely keep listening and finding stuff, because like you said, it's a massive, it can change my mood in an instant from anything. And I'm sure that there's absolutely most musicians in the world would agree that's the power of it. So even if it's just something as simple as that, finding something that means something to you and use it, then absolutely do it. And I guess it even kind of comes back to what you were saying about, how the good relationship with your band, all of that ties in. It's so important to, like, for you and your brother to, as you said, separate the things of being bros from the band. Because at the end of the day, if you don't do all of those things or recognize all of those things, it then contributes to animosity, which then affects mental health. It all is intrinsically tied together. So I think everyone's having a much bigger respect for that now, and kind of making sure that they thread that into the very being of a band, to make sure that that's an important sort of pillar.
Absolutely. And we're trying to have our shows be like a platform for people to actually kind of get that out, because I honestly think the worst thing that anyone can do is continue to internalize how they're feeling and all these things that are affecting them negatively, no matter how minor it may be, because ultimately for a lot of people, that's like the real killer, is like it just eats them alive, because they don't feel like they can talk to anyone about it, or they feel like they're a broken record, or they can't talk about it. But like, you can't hold any of that in, because it'll just make you sick. And like, I encourage people at our shows to, like, if you have nobody to talk to, if you don't feel like you have any friends, or you can't trust anyone with anything like that, you're holding in to come and talk to us, like anywhere at the show and after the show, and get it out of your system. I will be the one that is your friend that sits and listens and doesn't judge you for how you are feeling, because everybody needs that in some sort of way. Whether it's one thing to listen to music and connect to it because of your experiences or how you're feeling and feeling seen by something in some sort of way, but it's really important to be heard and to be understood before you can get any of that. And for a lot of people that feel like they have no one, and they're connecting with artists through music, like they feel like they need to have that connection. And I know some artists, like personally, like you can't do that to every artist that you go and see, because they might have something going on that you don't know about, you like, just like anyone else, we're just people, run, and, like people have things going on, family stuff happens, life stuff happens, but I encourage people to come up to me in particular and just get out of your system, because the worst thing that I ever did was hold it in and feel like I was a burden to other people, and that I was a broken record for, like I was like some sort of bad person for being like chronically depressed or something like that. I couldn't get out. And I think, obviously a therapist is a really important thing for that, because you've got a forum where, there is a person there that is capable and is trained, and has the capacity to take that on, and can give you steps and tools to get over that. But even before that, sometimes you just need to be heard and get out of your system.
Exactly.
And for us, the shows have always, for us, been that sort of thing, because, the subject matter of the songs we put out, there's a lot of really heavy topics. And, one of them is literally about a suicide attempt. And it's about, it's about my experience with, a few years ago, I was in a really bad place because of a lot of different things. And I thought that, I had nothing left to lose. And but the best decision I ever made was sticking around. And, very thankful for friends and for band and for having good help, therapists and that sort of thing that can help give me tools to get through those sort of things and be a happier and healthier person. And I want to put out the message that, everyone has an opportunity to make those changes for themselves. And if you need help, it's all right to ask for help, because no one's perfect. Getting help and being healthy or anything isn't a linear path. You're not going to be in one place and then just be good forever. It's dips and troughs. There is no like, I was here and now I'm good all the time. It's life just isn't like that. And that's one thing that with it's not being talked about enough. Life is full of dips and troughs. You're never going to be happy all the time. And it's important to let all of those things out in a healthy way, because ultimately it's going to prevent you from harming yourself emotionally and, or in other ways. And so I think it's really important for people to have that opportunity to have some sort of, relief from that. So for us, like for me, putting out the music is like quite cathartic, and it's quite, it's like a positive release of all of these bad things. Instead of holding him in. And for a lot of people, they're giving that energy back to you, and they're coming to shows because, some people with heavy music, we didn't feel accepted, for the music we listen to, or for who we are, or for gender identity, sexuality, anything like race, whatever. Shows are a forum where you can come to a place and have a positive release of energy in a safe environment. Yeah. And for us, that's what shows are all about, and that's what it's always been about. And I think that, that I want, now as a younger band, we're not a big band by any stretch of the means. We're a small band, but for us, if we can do our bit to make shows a more positive and safe place, and a place where people feel safe and have a forum to get out things that they're holding in so that they're not internalizing it, that's what we'll do. And I'll sit there and I will listen to every single person that feels comfortable or safe enough or has the courage to come and talk to me about that, because it takes a lot of courage to speak up and say that, I'm not doing good.
And that's important
to give that the time of day.
Yeah, and if you're saying this now, right, someone could be listening to this and going, you know what, like, I'm going to go to a Lune show. I'm going to get around it, and then afterwards, maybe I will want to come and chat to Nathaniel about how I'm feeling, because I don't feel like I've got anyone else, right? And even though you were saying, you know what, we're a small band in the scheme of things, we have this kind of idea with our podcast that if we even have helped one single person, right, we're happy and we feel that we've done our job. And I'm sure you feel the exact same way with the music as well.
Exactly. And like, yeah, like it's crazy to me, like even as like basically a local band, to have someone come up to you and say that they felt seen in some sort of way by something you made, or that it's given them an opportunity to pluck up the courage to actually speak up about how they're feeling or about they've experienced and take the steps to get better.
Yeah.
And so I'm happy to accommodate those people that are just trying to be happier people and be healthier. Because, you know, I want everyone that comes to my shows to be happier and healthier and better. And, you know, like for us, like the whole point of us doing what we do is like not about, well, for me anyway, it's like, I don't want to write sad songs all the time forever. It's ultimately just about, I keep saying it over and over, but it's just like a positive release. It is about it being cathartic.
Absolutely.
And getting it out of your system. And the next record is like that as well. And like kind of scared to release the new songs to the very raw, I would say. But I think that is why we're so proud of them. And I'm like very thankful that my band has been gracious enough to let me like talk about the stuff that I've talked about on any of our music. Because you know, it's their music too. Like this isn't a Nathaniel show. We're a collective, we're a band. It's Lune.
Well, I want to say thank you for sharing all of that as well. Like, I think that, you know, it is so important that people can be really open and honest about their own experiences, because it does help so many others who may have felt close to the edge, or, you know, even some of what you explained. And, you know, it takes a lot to be able to talk about that stuff in the way that you just did. So I really want to thank you for doing that and for being so open and honest, because, you know, it means the world, and it's a lot of what we try to have those conversations here on the podcast. So I'm really happy to hear that you're doing better now. And like you said, man, the battle's never over though. And I think that's such an important part, is that, you know, you've got to, it's not about starting the work is one thing, but you've got to continue to do the work on yourself and you know, apply those tools and the methodologies that you found has helped you get back from that ledge, and continue to put them into practice and understand what helps you in different ways, and continue to use that so that you can feel like that as much as possible. And you're not always, it's not 100% foolproof, and things are going to the wheels are going to fall off sometimes. That's just the reality of dealing with these things. But, you know, when people can hear the confidence in your voice that you have about the position that you're in right now, talking about it, that's what's super important. That gives people hope to be like, hold on a second, he was here at this point and now he's here and he's talking about it, you know, with gusto. That's because of the work that you put in and going to therapy, and but then also acknowledging that the battle's not over. So I just wanted to thank you really for that. And the last question, I guess, for the band before we get into what we call the questions, which is a recurring segment we have with every guest where we ask them a predetermined set of questions. But just about the direction for Lune now. We know you've obviously got some music out, but what's kind of, you know, you guys are all so super motivated. Where would you like to see yourself after this tour that you've got coming up? What would you like to do next? What's the kind of end goal, if you put an end goal or, you know, future goal for the band? What would you love to see yourself doing down the track?
I mean, so if you're talking like big long-term stuff, we want to be touring overseas. But, you know, I think we need to really prove that we're worthy of that to the wider music community before we can get over there. And we really want to grow our audience and keep building upon what we're already building. Touring wise, there's a lot of artists we'd love to work with musically on music, but also we think we just love to work with. And coming up, we've got a lot of things, big things coming, but you know, like there's like a lot of artists that I can't believe we're working with. Like, there's one, you know, artist in particular that I still can't believe it's happening. That's all I can say on that. I can't elaborate. I can't elaborate any further.
Can you tell us if they're Australian or are they from overseas?
I will not disclose anything.
Can't even give us the nationality.
Cards held close to his chest.
Yeah, I gotta hold him. I can't give everything away because it's part of the surprise. But exactly, I just like, I can't believe it. Like, just when they started talking to us and even knew who the fuck we were, I was like, you are not supposed to know that we even exist. So that was just crazy to me. Like that. So I like anyone that comes to our shows, I'm just shocked that anyone cares, because it's just for me, it's just, I just do what I do, and I do it because I enjoy doing it and because I care. Of course, I want to like grow the band and everything, but it's just we just care about what we're doing and we want to do what's right for the music. But anyway, like touring wise, it looks like it's already a busy start to the year. And then we're just really excited to get this new music out. It is the most proud we've ever been of anything we've ever done musically.
Amazing.
It's like, I can confidently say, like, we say, like, it just fucking shits on anything we've ever done, like in the biggest way. And I've never been more proud of anything we've ever done. Like, and personally, like as a singer, like some of the things I did, before we did it, I didn't believe I could do. Wow. There were some things where I was like, there's no way I can fucking do this. But like, so I guess like I'm proud in terms of like a development for every single member. Like everyone has really brought it big time and really stepped it up. And
do you have any sort of timeline for do you have any, like, you can't give us anything at all, like when we rough gauge of how long until we get a song?
It'll be out this year. That's all I'm saying.
This year. Okay, that's good enough.
Be hearing music from us.
That's good enough.
This year, probably, yeah. I would say you'll start hearing stuff first half of this year, I would say.
Okay.
So, yeah, which I'm really excited about because it's been too bloody long between music. But I'm glad we spent the time that we did to get it right, because it's, man, I'll tell you what, like, for us, like I would say it's worth the wait.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, hey, look, I'm looking forward to hearing that one that you guys played live.
Yeah, we've played a couple new ones live.
A couple new ones,
They've been going down well. It's like weird when you're like 3 songs out of your set and new songs and people are still going nuts for them, and you're like, this isn't even out yet. What do you mean?
They were great.
Which is cool. So I'm excited for that. Like I can't wait to get it into people's ears.
Well, we can't wait either now, because you've set the scene and we've obviously heard some of it. So there was definitely not a song that I didn't think fucking slapped that whole set. So I'm excited to be able to get it into my ear holes more often. But look, let's get into the questions and let you get back to your night. So question number 1, man, hit him with it.
Should we melt his face with question number 1?
Question number 1.
All right, this is a bit of a tough one. We quite often find, especially for musicians.
All right.
So what's your favourite song of all time?
Number 1.
Oh, this is a good one. This is the thing. Like, I have so many answers to this question.
Yeah.
It is like so fucking hard for me to answer this question because I listen to so much music.
Okay, so we allow you to give us a top 3 to start with if you want to rattle 3 off, but then at the end
you have to
narrow it down to 1.
Yeah.
All right. More recently, I would say it's a song by Phoebe Bridgers, and it is called Punisher. Okay. It is like that song, like that whole album for me is a zero skips album. It is a flawless album. It is perfect.
Wow.
There's nothing I hate about that album or dislike about in the slightest. It is a perfect album. There is no skips. It's raw, it's honest, it's just like she like pokes fun at herself, and like it's so self-aware of what it is and so brutally honest in some parts that sometimes it's almost like hurts.
Wow.
Yeah, which is like the kind of music I love, because it's just like, fucking hell, like, who hurt you? And then you're like, oh wait, you're telling me right now.
So I actually only discovered her in the last year because she does a cover of a Bo Burnham song. And does a fucking incredible job of it. So I will go back now on your recommendation and dive further into her catalog, because voice is definitely incredible. So I'm sure that she's singing some hurty songs. I'm going to feel them.
Honorable mention to a song called The Killer and the Sound, which is actually a blend of 2 songs. It's a Phoebe Bridgers song called The Killer and a Noah Gunderson song. And it's like them doing a song together, and it's like all live in studio. And it's just them, 2 pianos and their voices.
Yeah, right.
And it's
amazing.
One of the most moving things I've heard. So I would say probably that. Fucking hell, there's so much stuff. Second off will probably be another indie one, actually, another folk one. Bunny Best song. It's called Ari Stacks.
Okay.
It's just,
we haven't had any Bon Iver before.
No.
Yeah, it's I was actually supposed to be going to see them, and I've wanted to see them for 10 years, and I have to sell my ticket to Melbourne because we're going to be on tour with Destruction, which I'm gutted about. But like, also, yeah, but the song got RE Stacks, and it closes out like a really emotive raw album. And it's just him in a room with an acoustic guitar. It's very raw, and then like, it's almost like you're in the room with him. It's
cool.
So yeah, it's crazy. Like you just completely transported to another place when you hear that song, and it's like the perfect closer to an album. But back to the Punisher thing. Speaking of perfect closers to an album, the actual favorite song of that album, which I will say is the best song, I would say it's called "I Know the End."
Okay.
And she released it, that album June 2020, when everyone's at home literally thinking the world is ending, and the song is about the end of the world.
Yeah.
Like her feeling like it's the end of the world, and like not really knowing what to do with herself. And so I would say "I Know the End" by Phoebe Bridgers. Then RE Stacks by Bernie Ver. Oh, there's so many tracks I want to do, but I'll probably finish it off with a heavy one. God, there's two bands that I want to pick from that are two, which are like particularly for Lune, super formative tracks, I would say. I could go with a new one, but I could go with an old one too. But I'll go with an old one. I have a lot of time for a track from a band called Tesseract.
Yeah, okay, I know Tesseract.
A very, very important band. Very, very important band to us collectively, like especially to my brother in terms of songwriting. And if you want to talk about flawless songwriting and a band that has not released a single bad album, you want to talk about Tesseract. That band has never missed ever.
Yeah.
God, what a fucking song do I pick? My God. For me personally, it's probably April by Tesseract. It's like, cool. That song is like so much going on, and it's such a heavy song in terms of subject matter. Mm-hmm. And for me, like I remember being like probably 16 and hearing that for the first time and being like, whoa, this is fucked. It's you got to read along with the lyrics of that song, and it's pretty rough. And like Dan Tompkins is such a force vocally, but his vocal delivery is unreal. And for him to be in such good shape and such good vocal condition, at his not his age, because he's not even that old yet, but like he's just at the top of his game still. There's so many more songs I could do.
So of those three that you've given us though, what would you say is
what's your favorite?
What's your favorite of those three? You gotta give us one.
All right.
That's why the question's tough. It's your favorite song.
This is so hard. God. Far out. I'm probably going to say RE Stacks just because.
All right. We like it.
RE Stacks. That song, like for me, like every time I listen to it, I get the same emotions I felt when I first heard it.
Yeah. And that's a true definition of a good song right there, isn't it?
Yep.
Every single time I hear it playing, I'm like, it's like, it is like the first time I ever heard it.
Yeah.
You're just completely captivated by it, and you're hanging on to every single note and every single word. It's just, you're completely captivated by it because it's such an intimate song, because it's just, just like a room mic and it like a doubled vocal for the guitar. It's that's it. That's
fantastic.
Well, I'll check.
It's special.
Love it.
Yeah, I'll check that one out for sure. All right. Well, question number 2 is usually an easier one than that one. But who is your favorite comedian or comedic actor?
Oh, comedian or comedic actor at the moment? Far out. It's a good question. Oh, he's not really a comedic actor anymore. Because he just like my comfort show is Parks and Rec, right?
Oh,
like when I don't know what the fuck to watch, I put on Parks and Rec.
Yeah,
yeah, me too.
And Nick Offerman Nick Offerman plays a character in the Last of Us TV show.
Yep.
Oh,
And
does
the
he?
episode just came out yesterday.
Yeah.
The
Does he
episode just
really?
came out yesterday. Those games are like my favorite games ever made.
Yeah.
Because I remember like I'm an avid lover of video games. And I didn't play The Last of Us when it first came out. And then someone kept harping on to me that I should play it. And I finally started playing it in 2020.
Yeah.
And like The Last of Us Part 2 had just come out. So I smashed all the games in one go. And I got to the end of the cliffhanger of that game and went, I can't fucking believe that they left them on a cliffhanger like that for 7 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, Nick Offerman just, yeah, I've never felt like that after an episode of television.
Wow.
Yeah,
I need to watch this now
No,
because
no,
it's
no,
good.
I cried my eyes out.
how close do they do it to the actual game storyline? Because I know a little bit of the, I didn't play it, but like I'm the kind of person that likes to watch people play games sometimes, and I used to watch my old housemate, who we mentioned earlier, play that game. So how close is it to the actual storyline of the game?
Without giving it too much away, like the first episode, shot for shot, like in some parts, like it was like shot for shot with the cutscenes, like really beautiful callbacks to the game. Pretty much the same.
Yep.
Other than a couple of little things that I feel like in a TV show, which I actually totally understand why they did it, because in a TV show sense, it doesn't make sense to do it that way, because a lot of the things and how they worked, you know, the infect and the Last of Us, it makes sense in a video game in a game sense, but doesn't really go across to like a TV show too well.
Yeah.
So that they've still stayed extremely true to the source material.
Cool.
And in the most recent episode, they've added a much larger depth to a character which doesn't actually get heaps of screen time in the game.
Okay.
But there's a lot of things, but without giving anything away, there's like a certain scene of the game where it's like heavily implied that this is what this is, but they don't really give much more time of day to it than that. Like there's no other context given.
Yeah.
Now in that episode, they give a whole backstory to a whole context in a larger way, and they change the narrative of that character in a way, but it's still the same outcome ultimately.
Okay. Cool.
And yeah, it's just be ready to feel a lot of feelings.
Yeah. Okay. I'm keen.
I've never had a game that has made me feel like that and left me with that much to think about after playing it.
Wow.
Like I remember finishing The Last of Us Part 2 and just like I was thinking about that for 2 months afterwards, that ending. Just
Yeah, I've got to go back, and I only played like half of number 1 and then gave up because I'm so bad at like sneaky, like methodic like games. I'm a very like run and gun, like let me just kill everything.
See, I love like Hitman and shit like that.
The Last of Us Part 2 is really good. The Last of Us Part 2 is really good for that. There's a much more combat, I would say. It's still you got to do a bit of stealth, but there's much more combat. But that game you're almost like pushing through to get to like the next part of the story, and they're like peppering bits of the story and dialogue as you're playing. But anyway, I would say more recently probably Nick.
Yeah.
Well,
Fantastic.
a quick shout out for Parks and Rec as well is that is one of my favorite shows of all time. But Ben Schwartz as John Ralphio in that show is one of my favorite. Like, and the story of him. The story of him getting cast for, like, it was just supposed to be a couple of episodes popping up with Aziz, and then just like absolutely blowing the doors like off the performance and becoming so much of a recurring character that they then cast your sister and your dad and all of those things, like built around what was meant to initially be just a short cameo, is one of the coolest like, you know, TV show stories of all time. And I find myself watching a YouTube compilation of John Ralphio singing all the time. Like that is my like little guilty pleasure, is like watching him do the "'cause she's the worst." Oh god.
But just him as an actor, he's fantastic. Like even in Space Force.
He's
really good too.
Yeah, big time.
And his Middletich and Swartz, did you watch that? He did an improv thing on Netflix where it's just like they get ideas from the crowd and they just act out the scenes. Hilarious. So good.
Wow.
Definitely check that out. All right. Question number 3 is, we'll go to this one. We'll go, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Probably call back to what we were talking about before, which is something my granddad actually said to me, which is don't hold it in because it'll make you sick.
Nice.
Yeah, it's just like, it'll eat you alive. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Never leave something unsaid. It's in any sort of dynamic. Like I think, if you're not feeling good, you should talk about it and get out of your system and not be holding that, internalizing it in. But the same goes for relationships, whether it be band, actual relationships, family or whatever. You should talk and hear each other out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. Don't hold it in, and also just hear everyone out, hear each other out.
That's great.
That's great.
I think communication is something that quite often is very sorely lacking and or overlooked.
Yeah.
And holding something in, I know I'm guilty of it too, because I like you said a bit earlier, feeling like you're a burden and feeling like you're a broken record. I quite often feel the same way, because quite often for me, it's the same problem that keeps grinding on me for a while now, and I don't want to turn to him every week and be like, hey bro, this is what's pissing me off, and he goes, I've told you this 3 times already, even though he would listen to me another 400,000 times. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, you don't want to feel like you're doing that. So when you're holding shit in, you just fucking, it's building up on you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, like you might think you're driving someone insane, but you're driving yourself insane by holding it in. And like, I think you're very lucky to have a friend that'll keep hearing you out and saying those things, because it's important to just keep talking about those things and hearing each other out and doing that, because, like we've said, like getting better isn't linear, and you're not going to be like, oh, this is gone forever now. And like some things keep coming back up, and like, or, like, man, like getting better is, or being happy or whatever, or finding happiness, like it's never like so straightforward. There's always gonna, like we said, dips and troughs. Like it's just, it's always gonna be, sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. But but no, you gotta say how you're feeling, because otherwise it's just gonna fucking kill you. And
absolutely.
I think to anyone, I think we'd much rather hear that than, be at your funeral.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. 100%. 100%.
Much rather be listening to you and helping you through it than, be the latter. That's probably a bit macabre, but
no, it's the truth.
Yeah,
it is absolutely the truth. And all right, well, I think that's probably a perfect segue into this question as well. What are a couple of things that you're grateful for today, Nathaniel?
Okay. God, I'm grateful for my band. Extremely grateful for my band.
Yeah, we can tell that from this conversation.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for my friends. Like, my friends are like the best people in the fucking world. And yeah, I don't know why or how they put up with me, but they do. And we drive each other nuts, but they're your friends, and that's what you do, and you drive each other nuts, and it's kind of the best part about it.
Yeah.
I'm incredibly thankful for my band and for my friends, and for the opportunity to do anything that I do. Not even just musically, just for, especially after COVID and everything.
Yeah.
Like, I think I'm just extremely grateful for any opportunity that I'm given to do anything. And life is so short and so fleeting, and it can be over in a second, and things can change in a second. So just, you got to really sit and like take in everything around you, because it could be over in any time, really.
That's it, man. And that's why we like that question so much. We actually haven't asked that question for the good first, 60 episodes.
60 episodes, until...
that it popped up. And we were like, fuck, that's actually a really powerful question, because it makes you sit there, and it even makes us sit there. You go and understand, my friends, and made me go like, yeah, fuck, you know what? Like, I'm really grateful for my fucking friends today too, Like, it makes you think.
Because they'll love you, and to have good friends is to have them, hear you out, and to have your small circle of people that you all support each other and lift each other up, and you're there for one another, but you also call each other on your shit.
Yeah.
And you know, the one thing I've learned, I think you learn kind of getting a bit older, and I'm not even that old yet, but you know, getting a bit older is, you know, I'd rather have, you know, like 10 really good friends than like 100 shit friends.
Absolutely.
That are, you know, like enable bad behaviors or anything like that. You know, I think it's really important to have friends that support each other, but also hold each other accountable for stuff. And you know, work to make each other be better. And give each other an opportunity to learn and to be better. And that, I think that's a really important and powerful thing.
Yeah. And I think as well, it's one of those things where like, it's just as important. We always talk about when you're going through something, when you're feeling down, to talk about it. But I think a side that often doesn't get talked about enough, and this is like a practice that I know from therapists, is it's just as important to talk when things are going well. And so like that whole gratitudes thing, I think, is a part of that, in like really thinking about when you're in a good headspace, this is what I'm thankful for. These are the things that I have gratitude for, because that helps you build, and we talk about this a lot, like build that kind of suit of armor for when things start to go bad again. You've really put the time and the effort into when things were going well. So you're more ready to deal with that next trough, that next peak, whatever it may be, because you've done that work when you're also, I think sometimes, you know, we can as humans start to feel better and then kind of forget about the work that we did to get ourselves there. But, you know, I've heard therapists talk about before that the work when you're feeling good is actually more important than when you're on the edge.
Upkeep is extremely important.
Yeah. And we've said this from a guy, the one who introduced the gratitude question to us, also talks about it as mental fitness. So instead of calling it mental health, he goes, I never call it that because it makes it sound like it's a condition or a treatable thing, where it's not the case. It's mental fitness because you have to exercise every day. It's continuing to do the work so that your, you know, mental fitness level is high, so that you're ready to deal with the, you know, the challenges that are going to be presented, because they are going to be presented, as you've said. So I just think that's super important. And man, hit him with the we're gonna go off the heavies for a second, and we're gonna have a little bit of fun to wrap this podcast up.
Yeah, this is it. This is the final question, mate, and we hit everybody with this one. So we're looking forward to your answer. Would you rather fight one duck-sized horse? Right? No. Have I got it backwards?
One.
We spent 1 month off of this, and all of a sudden we've got to fucking fizzle it out. Okay, let's go again. One horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
There you go.
Oh, this is like the would you fight like an army of toddlers type thing? Yeah. Fuck. How big? Like duck-sized horses? How big's a duck's on it?
So you got your average duck, right?
Yeah.
And then, but they're actually horses. So there's 100 of them, or one duck that's the size of a horse.
Of a full-grown male horse.
Clydesdale.
You know, that's a big duck.
It's a very big duck. Yeah.
That is a big as fuck duck.
But that's also 100 fucking horses.
But they're little.
Yeah.
But are you afraid of a duck at its own size already?
Do I have prep time?
I don't think we've
asked
specified.
that before. I don't think we've specified. That's a gamer. That's a gamer.
That's a gamer right there.
Like, how can I build a base?
How big's my inventory?
Yeah. How much like can I carry in my backpack before I become incumbent?
Let's say no prep time. You are faced in front of you with the decision to either fight one giant duck or 100 miniature horses.
You're Russell Crowe in The Gladiator, right? And you're like just chained up underneath the Colosseum, and they go, you've got two choices, prisoner, of what you're going to go out. And if you fight to the death and win, then you get released you're no longer a slave.
I think I would fight the big duck.
Yeah. Now he's thinking about the glory of the Colosseum.
I don't know. It's just like one duck. Like it's still just one duck. Like you got to think about horses. Horses can fuck you up, and they've got hooves.
Yeah.
Ducks just like eat giant seeds, and it might have a giant beak or whatever, but it's still just a big bird.
Yeah,
so
exactly. It's good to have another person on my side for it.
It's just a big bird. Like anything, they've all got weak points.
Exactly, bro. And you know what my logic is you just go for their skinny ass little weak ass legs.
Yeah, exactly. I was
That's
just
true,
gonna say like I'll just pull out the camping gear and I'll just fucking go for it on the duck. But like if I had prep time, I would say it would be the horses because I just get in a car and do some Tokyo drift.
Horses.
That's cool.
Oh, fantastic.
I love that sometimes we always get thrown new like
We do,
additions to the question, so it's nice to have after what we've asked this question like 70 times.
Yeah,
now, so,
this is one of the old
You just
ones.
do a whole bunch of donuts around like the giant group of horses, like
Yeah,
in your car, and it's over for those
one
falls.
at a time.
yeah, Tokyo murder.
The duck is going to take a bit more time, but it's a duck.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like
exactly.
if I can like outrun it, which I reckon I could. Like ducks can fly, but still, like you know, I'll go find a bakery and I'll find a lot of bread.
Oh, fuck's sake.
That's well thought out.
Love it. Love it.
Then
Well, Nathaniel, mate, we have really enjoyed chatting to you about music, about Lune, and about bakeries.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming on, man. We really appreciate it, eh?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, and thanks for the chats.
We're
Not
looking
a problem
forward
at all,
to
man. Thank you so much, and take care of yourself. And we look forward to seeing you back here. Obviously, you can talk about this because it's been announced. So before you go, plug the tour. When does it start? Where does it start?
All right, we're on tour with Within Destruction in March. I think the first date is literally like the 1st of March. I'm going to pull up the tour dates because I'm the worst with this.
yeah, get them up, man.
That's okay. It's pretty new, so
No,
we'll give you the
we
benefit
start
of
off
the doubt.
we start off in Brisbane on the 2nd, and then we work down, and then we do Newcastle, and then we do Sydney, and then we do Melbourne on the Sunday, and then Adelaide's on a Tuesday, which will be interesting. But I'm looking forward to it because it's a big, heavy show with a lot of heavy bands, and
no clashes. I doubt there'll be any clashes. So you'll be the only.
That doesn't
You're
even.
just clashing with Married at First Sight on a fucking
Yeah, that's right.
Tuesday afternoon.
You know, whatever. It's like, moshing or Married at First Sight.
Exactly,
Yeah.
bro. Exactly.
To me,
yeah, it's
Adelaide is like always been the mosh city. So
Yeah, man.
I reckon
Yeah.
it's going to be a really sick show, and I'm
Yeah.
really looking forward to it. I reckon it's going to be really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't. And that's at Enigma as well, isn't it? So
Enigma Bar,
Oh, back
baby.
at Enigma again.
Yeah,
dude,
shit.
So
Yeah.
we're coming along on the. We'll get out on the Tuesday night. I've got Polaris that week as well.
Oh, yeah.
and I've got a
right.
comedy
Yeah.
show like in rural Adelaide on the Friday night. So that is going to be a crazy
Stomper
week.
week. Yeah.
Big
but
week.
Very excited for it. Thank you so much for jumping on, man. And
Thanks for having me.
looking
Yeah.
forward to getting to see you in person again in a few weeks' time.
Unreal. I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Legend.